Okay, so Donald Trump recently said he would be making a major announcement. Now, many wonder what this could possibly be, perhaps naming who his running mate would be for 2024, or that Santa Claus is fake news. In the end, Trump announced that he would be selling NFT trading cards for $99.
I talked to people in Trump's orbit about this.
Yeah.
Even they were like, what? Like, even people who are normally his allies that defend everything he does, they were like, I don't know if I
Even people who
get this.
participated in the January 6th insurrection are saying, I went to jail for an NFT.
Right.
I mean,
No, that's right.
what is this? Has he, an NFT?
It's another cheesy grift, him trying to monetize his hardcore supporters. It shows how fundamentally unseriously he's taking this run for president and how unseriously he takes anything except himself. And even that turns into a cartoon version. This is just more nonsense. And if this is the big reveal some folks need, let's just be clear. It's not that he got bad advice. It's that he is bad advice. And he did this to himself.
Can we listen to what Steve Bannon said about it? Because
Yeah.
I think this will kind of encapsulate the reaction from even Trump's allies.
I can't do this anymore. He's one of the greatest presidents in history, but I got to tell you, whoever, but business partner, and anybody in the comms team, and anybody in Mar-a-Lago, and I love the folks down there, but we're war. They ought to be fired today. You came out with something that's so important, which I still don't think gets to the heart of it. And hey, you don't have three harder cores than Cortez, Bannon, and Seb Gorka.
Now, $99 might be a bit too steep of a price for me. Of course, factoring in the recent inflation, $99 might not be too bad after all. Apparently, they were priced correctly, being that they sold out soon after their release, which may have frustrated the current president and biggest fan of Trump, Joseph Biden. In response, Biden sent out his own tweet in an attempt to outdo Trump's trading cards, writing, "I had some major announcements the last couple weeks too. Inflation's easing, I just signed the Respect for Marriage Act, we brought Brittany Griner home, gas prices are lower than a year ago, and 10,000 new high-paying jobs in Arizona." I gotta say, Mr. President, those are indeed some pretty good accomplishments, but how many Americans would buy a $99 NFT trading card of Joe Biden? Interesting question. Now, back to Trump for a moment. In recent polling, things really haven't fared too well for number 45. So in one poll by USA Today, Florida's current governor, Ron DeSantis, led Trump by 23 points. And then in another poll by the Wall Street Journal, Trump lagged DeSantis by a margin of 14, down 52 to 38%. Now, these polls showed a contrast in other polling done by Politico, Emerson, Harvard-Harris, and the New York Times, all which had Trump leading by an average of 21.5 points. So, which of these polls are we supposed to believe? According to Trump, the ones he's losing in are all fake. So on Truth Social, Trump posted, "Great polling has just come out of me versus various others, including Biden, but I still have to put up with the same old stuff from the Wall Street Journal, which has lost an incalculable amount of influence over the years, and Fox News, whose polls on me have been seriously wrong from the day I came down from the escalator in Trump Tower." Same thing happened in 2016, where Fox News and the Wall Street Journal went out of their way to give me bad coverage in polling and say I couldn't win until I won. Meanwhile, with Trump's polling numbers sinking, the current Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who previously was silent on Trump, is now speaking out once again, blaming Trump for the poor quality candidates and saying that's why they did not win back the majority in the Senate. Watch.
Looking back at 22, some of you may recall, I never said there was a red wave. I said we had a bunch of close races. And looking at each race separately, I wasn't making that up. We had a bunch of close races. We ended up having a candidate quality time. Anybody remember we mentioned that back in August? Look at Arizona. Look at New Hampshire. In a challenging situation, Georgia as well. We did, by we, I mean the Senate Leadership Fund, did intervene in two primaries, in Alabama and in Missouri. And I do think we have an opportunity to relearn one more time. You have to have quality candidates to win competitive Senate races. We went through this in 2010, 2012, Christine O'Donnell, Chairman Angle, Ron Aiken, Richard Murdoch, and unfortunately revisited that situation in 22. Our ability to control the primary outcome was quite limited in 22 because of the support of the former president proved to be very decisive in these primaries. So my view was, do the best you can with the cards you're dealt. Hopefully in the next cycle, we'll have quality candidates everywhere and a better outcome.
Now, whether or not these polls are correct, we'll just have to wait and see. Regardless, DeSantis hasn't even said whether or not he'll even be running in 2024, but according to a former advisor to Bill Clinton, DeSantis would be Biden's worst nightmare for 2024. Watch.
And in a potential 2024 showdown, winning by 14 points in this new poll from the Wall Street Journal among likely Republican primary voters. DeSantis has an even bigger lead, more than 20 points in the survey that we showed you just yesterday. That one was from USA Today and Suffolk University polling. With that, we bring in Kellyanne Conway, former senior counselor to President Trump, president of KA Consulting and a Fox News contributor, and Doug Schoen, former advisor to President Clinton. Two great pollsters with a lot of experience in this. So, Kellyanne, I'll start with you. What do you think of these polls?
I'm not surprised at all. I think Ron DeSantis has had a monster year. He's done a great job in Florida, and people see him as having a very bright future, including me. And I think Donald Trump put himself out there, even though he was banned from social media and parts of the Democratic Party, if not society. Look, I like the fact that we have two people we're talking about here who are both anti-establishment, risk takers, keep their promises, and also, are people who were not the ones that the cognoscente wanted. Both of them beat people in their respective primaries, Martha and Doug, who were the odds-on favorites. So I appreciate that. I mean, I would say, I don't want to haggle over too much of the science, but we are pollsters. The sample size of 267 likely voters, I had many more people at my wedding than in that entire poll. I'd like to see some larger sample sizes. But look, I want to say this. Donald Trump, ironically, benefited from something that may be hurting him a bit right now. He benefited from the fact that he was able to break through and stop this nonsense in the Republican Party of having our nomination process be a coronation or a consolation, nominating the person who lost to the person who won. That may be hurting him right now with Ron DeSantis coming up. One thing that strikes me in the polling, though, is that Ron DeSantis is doing much better among moderate voters and voters in the Republican Party, Martha and Doug, who call themselves, quote, somewhat conservative. That surprises me because I don't think that he presents himself and doesn't want to be seen necessarily as a moderate. I think his exchange with Laura Ingraham last night was quite eye-opening and remarkable on many levels. Not exactly moderate. The other thing in the polling, just quickly, is Joe Biden did not get a big bump out of these midterms. I'm very surprised to see that his disapproval is back up. A majority of Democrats don't want him to run, and 47% say because of his age.
All right, let's look at the USA Today Suffolk. This is a head-to-head between Biden and Trump. 47 Biden, 40 Trump, and then against DeSantis, Biden loses 43 to 47. Doug, your take.
Yeah, look, to put it bluntly, Trump is sinking, DeSantis is surging. Joe Biden's worst nightmare is Ron DeSantis. He believes he can beat Donald Trump, even with the very low approval ratings that Kellyanne rightly speaks of. There was no bump for the Democrats in the midterm. It was a repudiation of Trump and Trump candidates. I think DeSantis is ideally positioned. Now, we all know that front runners early on, particularly those that are untested, have a long way to go. In a multi-candidate field, anything could happen. But right now, I think it's fair to say Ron DeSantis is the odds-on favorite to be the Republican nominee and potentially the next president of the United States.
Well, it all seems so far away, and then it doesn't, right? And then the months start moving very quickly, and everybody is gearing up. So, this, you said basically how, Kellyanne, how the former President Trump bucked the trend. There were all these people who were longtime, well-known names in the Republican Party who everybody thought, were likely to be the nominees. So this time you've got, Glenn Youngkin, Mike Pompeo, Nikki Haley, Mike Pence. I mean, you could have another very broad field here. I'm actually going to interview Governor Youngkin down in Richmond tomorrow. Your thoughts on how viable these other candidates really are?
Well, look, I think they're all presidential timber. I think on the Democratic side, they have some presidential wood chips right now, thinking they should run against Joe Biden. Here's what's going to happen. The Republicans are going to have a large primary, and the winner will emerge with far less than 50%, maybe 40% of the vote. The Democrats who want a primary and don't want Joe Biden aren't going to have much of one. He may have one or two contenders from the left. But remember, Martha, until you're under those Klieg lights, look at what Chris Christie did to Marco Rubio on that debate stage in New Hampshire in 2016. Look at what happened on Michael Bloomberg in a matter of 60 seconds with Liz Warren making just easy work of him in less than a minute and very predictable questions. So I think with Donald Trump, the one thing he's got going for him, he's done the job before, but the thing he has going for him, every time something happens, people say that doesn't surprise me, it's Donald Trump. People are going to be very surprised when they get to know some of these candidates. I predict that because it always happens with every candidate. It's not about any particular. They'll say, I didn't know that about him. I didn't know she felt that way.
Right.
So I think that people are always on a blind date with candidates they don't know well, and eventually the doorbell rings and you have to answer the door.
Quick final thought, Doug. Just a couple seconds here.
Yeah, I think we're a long way away from getting to the marriage ceremony with Ron DeSantis. We're past the initial date, but we're still in the getting to know one another phase. But as a Democrat, my fear is DeSantis, not Trump.
So what do we think? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you believe that DeSantis would beat Trump if he were to run? And if we ended up in a contest between Joe Biden and Ron DeSantis, who do you all believe would win in that matchup? So let me know what your thoughts are on that in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next video.